us to our top focus in this edition. Election meddling through social media platforms is a practice that has opened up a can of worms over the last few months. And in the latest, social media giant Facebook says that it has uncovered a coordinated campaign to influence the upcoming midterm elections in the United States. The social media network has said that it removed as many as 32 politically oriented fake accounts and pages from Facebook and Instagram due to what it called inauthentic behavior. The most popular fake accounts go by the names Azlan Warriors, Black Elevation and Resistors. The fake accounts collectively created about 9,500 posts and were followed by as many as 3 lakh other Facebook pages. In other words, the pages seem to have got real traction. These pages were also creating events and trying to get people interested in them. Facebook says the suspect accounts had run about 150 advertisements on Facebook and Instagram, costing a total of $11,000. One of the banned pages followed the modus operandi of Russian hackers during the US presidential elections of 2016. Although the activity seems to be consistent with alleged Russian meddling in the 2016 polls, Facebook has not yet identified who is behind those fake accounts, but says that whoever was operating the accounts went to great lengths to hide their identities. This included using virtual private networks or VPNs to hide their locations. It was a systematic process. They also used third parties to run ads on their behalf. This latest revelation coming just a week after the company posted disastrous results because it told investors that new privacy regulations will eat into its growth. This time around, Facebook may have quashed a misinformation campaign before it apparently caused much harm. But analysts say the future is troubling because the latest campaign was more sophisticated than anything that came before it. Also, the question remains as to how big this problem is worldwide. If there was a political influence operation going on in the US, what is the guarantee that it's not taking place elsewhere, especially in countries like India, which is headed for polls next year? And after the Cambridge Analytica Facebook scandal broke, India too pulled up the social networking giant. In India's case, the threat is real as several states go to polls later this year and the general elections are due next year. After these revelations about the US elections, India's Information Technology Minister said that social media platforms should themselves weed out circulation of fake news. He added that the government will not tolerate abuse of data by companies for influencing elections in India. In April, the Indian government had sought an explanation from Facebook if any user profiles from India were harvested. Facebook had admitted that nearly 5.62 lakh people in India were potentially affected by its global data breach involving Cambridge Analytica. In response to the Indian government on that scandal, Facebook had informed that only 335 people in India were directly affected through the installation of an application. The data breach, though, raises concerns because India has over 20 crore Facebook users. It is one of the biggest markets for the social networking giant. In June this year, Facebook asserted that it is not aware of any misuse of user information, including that of Indians, arising out of its agreements with phone makers. And this was after the Indian government shot off another notice to the giant seeking clarifications. As the controversy over fake news snowballed, Facebook just a few days ago offered to deploy its fact-checking systems in all future elections in India, including the 2019 general elections. Facebook said they would track false campaigns and fake news mass circulated through its network by voluntarily running a fact check. Facebook is already under fire in India after it found that WhatsApp, which is Facebook-owned, was being used to fuel lynchings across the country. WhatsApp has over the last few months introduced several new measures and features and altered settings for the Indian users to curb the circulation of fake messages and rumors, which have also led to dozens of lynchings. And in some of these cases, the victims were beaten to death over a fake message circulated on WhatsApp. Moving on, in most countries across the world, at the age of 40, a person reaches the halfway mark to his or her retirement age. A study now says that middle-aged workers perform their best when they are working 3 days in a week. You heard that right. 3 days a week. The study conducted in Australia has said that working less than 25 hours per week enhanced middle-aged workers' cognitive skills. The study threw contrasting lights when it came to middle-aged people who worked 55 hours per week. It said that such workers suffered from fatigue and stress. The study also said that several workers aged over 40 preferred a part-time job over a regular day job. Even though workers seem to prefer less working hours as they grow older, the retirement age around the world remains high. The average retirement age of people in the world is 64 years. If you live in Libya or Australia, you could very well be working till the age of 70 years. There is not a very stark difference when we look at the lowest retirement age in the world. In the countries of Indonesia, Nepal, and exceptional cases like India, a worker retires at the age of 58. So what makes a worker happy? Perhaps it's time that governments and corporates realize that workers might be needing more time off from work than what they are currently getting. Chinese smartphone maker Huawei has beaten tech giant Apple to become the second largest smartphone seller in the world. Apple has reported strong results, but the iPhone maker lost its position as the world's #2 smartphone seller. It was the first time that Apple had not been the #1 or the #2 smartphone company in terms of market share since the second quarter of 2010. Reports say Huawei shipped about 54.2 million handsets in the last quarter, registering a 41% on-year growth, while Apple shipped about 41.3 million units, registering just 0.7% growth. Samsung has remained the market leader in the second quarter, shipping out 71.5 million devices. And one of the reasons for Huawei outselling Apple is its addition of more top-end features into its flagship smartphones. The Chinese smartphone maker has added 3 cameras on its P20 Pro device, for example. As a result, Huawei is getting increasing brand recognition across Europe and Asia that is allowing the company to challenge the likes of Samsung in many price tiers. Research firms attribute Huawei's performance for the quarter to the success of its Honor brand. Huawei's Honor sub-brand accounted for 2/3 of the near 16 million jump that Huawei made this quarter. However, a majority of Huawei's sales growth has come from its smartphone shipments in China, where it grew its share of the home market by 6 percentage points on year to a record 27%. Let's just take a closer look at what the Indian smartphone industry looks like, showing a significant growth of around 11% year on year. Around 30 million mobile phones have been sold in the first quarter in India, and the numbers are rising each quarter. But India's smartphone market is dominated by Chinese phone makers, with 4 out of the top 5 sellers from China. Let's tell you which brands are ruling the smartphone market in the country. Xiaomi has maintained its lead in the Indian market with popularity of its models such as Redmi 5A and Redmi Note 5. Xiaomi dominates over more than 30% of the Indian market. With a market share of 25.1%, the South Korean mobile maker Samsung is at the second spot in India, beating its global rival Apple in the country. Another Chinese smartphone maker, Oppo, is at the 3rd spot in the Indian market, followed by Vivo and another entrant, Transsion, that features among the top 5 mobile phone brands in India. On to other updates. There is anger simmering among the locals in southeast China's Jiangxi province. In an effort to preserve land resources, a policy has been introduced to ban anyone from burying their dead. Not just that, coffins are reported to have been smashed and exhumed. The move has stirred anger and resentment on the ground. Even the state media is calling it barbaric and unpopular under a zero burial policy that was introduced about 6 months ago. Authorities in rural regions of Jiangxi province have waged a war on the traditional practice. They're also going to the extent of seizing or destroying the coffins that many poor families have spent all their lives saving up to buy. In photographs and videos shared on Chinese social media, officials were seen entering villages and forcibly removing coffins from people's homes. Residents who tried to intervene by lying inside the coffins were dragged away. The villagers also say that it took them many years to save up the money that they spent to buy those coffins. A U.S. court has granted a request to temporarily block a controversial online plan which teaches people how to build a 3D printed gun. 8 U.S. states filed a lawsuit seeking to block the federal government's settlement with the company that makes the plans available online. They also sought a restraining order, arguing that the 3D guns would be a safety risk. The company behind the plans, called Defense Distributed, had got a green signal with the federal government that allows it to make the plans for the guns available for downloading. The restraining order puts that plan on hold for now. Meanwhile, Democratic U.S. senators sounded an alarm over online publication of designs.
This is the doing of the Trump administration. This is part of a long pattern of letting the gun lobby get whatever they want, even if safety is at risk, even if terrorists could gain the upper hand. He complains about terrorists crossing the border, but he wants to let them have guns undetected? What kind of hypocrisy is this?
Firefighters in California continue to battle the mammoth wildfire that has now claimed the lives of 6 people and razed nearly 42,000 hectares of parched forest area. More than 800 homes have been reduced to ash in the fire, which has now been raging for a week. It is estimated that 37 people remain under mandatory evacuation orders. Authorities have reported that they have seldom seen such intense fires with high levels of unpredictability. This latest raging wildfire is a result of a volatile mix of drought-parched vegetation, triple-digit temperatures and erratic winds. According to the officials, out of 20 people reported missing, 16 were found safe. Some 12,000 firefighters from Florida and New Jersey have been deployed across the state to battle the raging wildfire. A 15-year-old Indian-American child prodigy has reached a milestone in his academic journey. Tanishq Abraham is all set to start his doctorate after completing his graduation in biomedical engineering. Tanishq Abraham graduated from the University of California, Davis with the highest honors of summa cum laude. Tanishq will now head back to Davis for a PhD and eventually will pursue medical school. Tanishq has always harbored big dreams of finding solutions to problems. He has designed a device that could measure the heart rate of burn patients without touching them. The 15-year-old has showed promise ever since he was a toddler. His parents noticed that he loved children's books, and by the age of 2, he could remember and recall everything that he heard and read, including how to tell the time on the clock. Hindi is one of the most commonly spoken languages in the world. Taking note of the rising popularity of the language, take a listen in now to a spokesperson of the U.S. State Department Speak in Hindi. Helena White, the South Asia spokesperson of the department, spoke to us on the recently held Pakistan elections and the way forward. Take a look.
अमेरिका पाकिस्तान में हाल ही में हुई चुनाव के परिणामों से अवगत है। अमेरिका पाकिस्तानी महिलाओं समेत सभी लोगों के साहस की सराहना कराते हैं जिन्होंने वोट दिया और अपने देश के भविष्य के निर्धारण का संकल्प दिखाया। हम चुनाव वाले दिन क्वेटा में एक मतदान केंद्र के बाहर हुए हमले सहित इस प्रक्रिया को नुकसान पहुंचने वाले आतंकवादी हिंसा की निंदा कराते हैं। अभियान के समय अभिव्यक्ति और संपर्क की आज़ादी पर लगाई बाधाएं शामिल थी जो पाकिस्तान अधिकारियों की पूरी निष्पक्ष और पारदर्शी चुनाव के लक्ष्य के विपरीत थी। अमेरिका यूरोपियन यूनियन इलेक्शन ऑब्जर्वेशन मिशन के निष्कर्षों के समेत हैं जिनकी रिपोर्ट में कहा गया है कि पाकिस्तान में चुनाव के लिए कानूनी ढांचे में सकारात्मक बदलाव हुए थे, लेकिन अभिव्यक्ति की आज़ादी पर प्रतिबंधों और असमान अभियान के अवसरों ने इसको फीका कर दिया। अमेरिका को चुनाव में आतंकवाद से जुड़े लोगों की भागीदारी पर भी गहरा दुराव है, लेकिन हम पाकिस्तानी मतदाताओं की सराहना कराते हैं जिन्होंने बुधवार को इन उम्मीदवारों को पूरी तरह से खारिज कर दिया। अमेरिका दक्षिण एशिया में सुरक्षा, स्थिरता और समृद्धि के लिए हमारी लक्ष्यों को आगे बढ़ाने के लिए पाकिस्तान की नई सरकार और नेताओं के साथ काम करने को उत्सुक हैं। धन्यवाद।
Moving on, pub owners and musicians in the South Indian city of Bengaluru are now up in arms against a recent notice that has been issued by the city police department. According to that notice, all venues in the city which have live bands performing now need to acquire a special license. Livelihood of hundreds of musicians across the city is at stake. WION's Nishita Virendra getting you more.
Bengaluru, often termed as the pub capital of India, has been offering a platform for many years to musicians from diverse genres to showcase their talent. But now that scenario seems to be changing fast. A latest notice by the Bengaluru police to nearly 400 pubs in the city has asked venues running live bands to procure a special license as per the Supreme Court order. The result? Hundreds of gigs have been cancelled and musicians are left in the lurch.
Most of my bandmates depend on these shows and on music for their livelihoods, and a lot of these pubs and bars were a good source of getting performance opportunities in Bangalore and outside. And suddenly cracking down on these pubs overnight without much notice or information is obviously a setback not only to the bar owners and to our fans, but also to the musicians who depend on, for their livelihoods on these performances. And it's not just musicians who depend on this, it's a lot of people, it's an interrelated industry, right? So you have the restaurants, the waiters, the managers, the social media personnel, the sound engineers, the lightsmen, everybody gets affected with this one ban.
But there is more to the issue. The pub owners and musicians protesting against this issue say that they have only been caught in the crossfire. Akshat Prasad, the pub owner in Bengaluru, says that live band was a term loosely used for dance bars that the authorities had intended to target in the 2005 Gazette. But now other venues which allow live band are also being targeted, thus becoming part of the collateral damage.
In 2005, the government wanted to take action against certain dance bars and brought out a Gazette notification asking for a license to be procured for these bars to operate. Subsequently, this went into appeals by the Karnataka Live Band Restaurant Association, which is the association of dance bar owners, who went right up to the Supreme Court, and in April of this year, the Supreme Court upheld that Gazette notification and said, yes, that license is necessary. They said it's necessary for three types of organizations: cabarets, discotheques and live bands.
But several other residents have a different take on this matter. Sneha is one of the residents who has been fighting against indiscriminate commercialization of residential localities in Bengaluru that has become a menace. She feels that such regulations will streamline licenses for pubs and bars mushrooming across the city.
There are regulations. Right now, they're not being enforced. That is where the problem lies, and that is why there is a conflict. And on any building, you find a lot of rooftop bars and restaurants, right? Now, as per law, they shouldn't be existing, right? Because the terrace of a building needs to be open. So you should not have any rooftop bars and restaurants, because in the quiet of the night, one, for fire safety, two is in the quiet of the night you find the music traveling, which is a huge disturbance for the residents in the vicinity.
While the debate goes on, musicians continue to be a worried lot, with their source of income getting affected.
If you look at every artist, they can't go out and hire a Chaudiya Memorial to put up a performance. They're starting out. These are the venues that sponsor a platform for these artists pay these artists to make sure that they start building up a fan following, and as they grow, as their music grows, they go on. Take DJs, they all start out pretty much as with resident jobs in various bars and pubs. Then they go on to do gigs on a event basis, and then they go on to become large performers who are at a national level.
In the last 4 years alone, Bengaluru has witnessed a 50% rise in its number of pubs and bars, but close to 400 of them are facing the threat of closure due to the latest notice by Bengaluru police. While on one hand, musicians are crying hoarse that their livelihood is getting affected, on the other hand, some of the residents have expressed relief that finally some regulation is being brought in place. But will this latest notice have implications that will affect Bengaluru's image as the pub capital of the country? In Bengaluru with video journalist Chandan, Nishita Virendra, WION.